So what advice do you have for single adults who are living alone, dealing with loneliness, and desiring a family? They think it's good, but God hasn't given it to them yet.
Yeah. So
or will he?
How this ties to our previous episode, where the question is, what is good? We talked about what is goodness because, every good and perfect gift is from above. And it says in the scripture, let me just say this, you're longing for intimacy with another person, emotionally and relationally and spiritually and physically is not sin. You are made in the image of God. It is not good, it says, for man to be alone. Now, you don't have to be married to find full satisfaction on earth, but the desire to be married is not in and of itself a problem. When we elevate it to the one thing that we think can satisfy us, that's a recipe, frankly, for a failed relationship, right? So, Coop, you know this, that when you were a young boy, I sat down and I came up with 5 characteristics of a godly man. And because you've got 3 sisters, I came up with 5 characteristics of a godly woman. And you ready for me to quiz you?
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
just the first one? So what's the first characteristic I said of a godly man?
Yeah, first one, step up, which he did these 5 characteristics, and then he put his own little tagline next to it, and then underneath each of these, he has tons of scripture on there. And so I probably wouldn't be able to ace all of the scripture, but the tagline, so the first one was step up, and the tagline is lead, initiate, be a man of action, assume it's your job, your moment, hate apathy, and reject passivity.
Yeah, and so it goes all the way through. And so the first 3 were different on my godly man and godly woman sheet, and the last 2 were the same. Because number 4 on both of them is
Stay humble.
Stay humble, and number 5,
Serve the king.
Serve the king, right? And so what's interesting is...
I got spankings if I missed any of those.
That's not true. That's not
He
true.
still would today if he had gotten it wrong.
All right, that violates, I think, number 3, which is number 2, which is speak the truth, right? Okay, so, but I will say this, on the godly, and we'll put a link to both of these, by the way, and you can hit them by Google. I think you just type in what is a godly man, that's the first thing that shows up, or what is a godly woman also. But I'm answering it this way for women specifically because that question, was it submitted from a friend, from a female friend?
I think so. I think so.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
I'm a single woman in my mid-20s, and I live alone. And so here's what I taught my girls. The very first thing I wanted my little girls to know was that they should never buy the lie that anyone or anything other than Jesus can satisfy them. Okay? And so while we want to say marriage is good and it's not sin to long for God's gift to us, it says in the scripture, he who is a house, and it says Proverbs 19:14 says this, a house and an inheritance are gifts from a father, but a prudent wife is a gift from the Lord. So our good God, one of the things he gives us is marriage, okay, and intimacy with others. I will tell you that God is sufficient in and of himself, and that's what I wanted my little girls to know. You don't need some guy to validate you and tell you that, you know what, you've got value because I am going to choose you of all the women in the world, right? What I want my little girls to know, and I want my sons to know, but I want my little girls to know is you're valuable because God chose you. You're valuable because you're created in his image. You have dignity and honor separate from a man. And there is no man that will ever give you what you're ultimately looking for. This is the biggest problem most people have in relationships, is that they get married thinking that this is the person that is my soulmate that will fill my cup and give me great gladness.
Fill my cup, fix my problems, and give me gladness.
You know what, this girl's on Instagram, and she's seeing everybody's pictures, 100 days till he becomes my husband, 50 days, and you're feeding yourself as, if only I had that.
Yeah, and I even had a friend who posted something along the lines of, I'm in quarantine specifically during this time, and I'm seeing all of these Instagram posts. I have this person who loves me unconditionally, who's going to pursue me always. I'm their person.
I'm so glad I'm locked up in my house with you.
Yeah, and that's just a lie.
Yeah.
Like, marriage is an incredible thing, and it is a gift, and it is good, but that person is still fallen, is still sinful, and they're not always your person. They're not always, they are because you're in a committed relationship.
Yeah. And
so that's where this extra security is found, but they're still a fallen, sinful human. And they're not always going to, and there's a promise that they're not always going to give you satisfaction. They're not always going to love you in that moment.
Yeah, they're going to hurt you. Whereas God will never disappoint and never hurt you. There's a longing to have more of God that will never have the fullness of God that we want on this earth. he alone can satisfy. And but let's just answer our friend's question here, because she says, I'm a single adult living alone. And that can be really hard. I mean, one of the things I tell my friends in general is one of the best ways you can prepare for marriage is to have a roommate, right?
Yeah. Somebody
who doesn't clean the dishes the way you want, right? And you really want to step it up. Have a roommate where there's just one bathroom in the house, right?
That'll stretch you.
That'll stretch you. And guess what? Marriage stretches you, right? And I would say, look, it's not sin to live alone. It is not wise to be alone. If you separate yourself, you quarrel against all sound wisdom, the scripture says. And that's in ideology. And I think even in physicality, man is not created to live alone.
Yeah.
Man is created and woman is created to have relationships with others. And so one of the things I think some people are realizing is, hey, while I liked the peace and quiet when I was at work all day and then would come home, man, now that I realize I'm home alone all the time, you might want to go, I'm not really sure I want to have so much separation in my life.
Yeah.
And so a roommate, or just even if you are living alone, you do want to pursue deep human connection. And you don't need to be married to have deep human, emotionally healthy relationships. But you cannot have deep human, emotionally healthy relationships if you don't have a relationship with people that are deeply in love with and pursuing and yielded to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think that is a really helpful answer, because there's a lot of people who do just put this idolatry on the idea of marriage. And again, it's good. It is a gift from God, but it is not God, like you said earlier.
But one of the things I'll just say about the loneliness piece, right? Yeah. So what's a good way to deal with loneliness? And I would just tell you want to pursue people. Don't sit there and wonder why people aren't pursuing you. Right? You get what you give a lot of times.
True.
And so I would just say, hey, find somebody that you can love, find somebody that you can serve, find somebody that you can be a friend to, and you will have a friend. And always just say, hey, Lord, would you fill me up so that out of the overflow of my relationship with you, I can be a minister to people and not manipulating them to have my needs met. I had a young man that when I was doing youth ministry years ago was just depressed and felt like he didn't have friends. And I said, here's what I would do. I would go to, he said, even when I go to the football game, nobody really wants to sit with me. And so, first of all, I said, I'll go with you. I'll be your friend. I'll sit with you. I mean, and I'll use my friendships to include you in it. That's one of the things that believers should do. But I literally said, hey, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to stop by, pick your favorite name of your favorite grocery store, and we're going to buy a bag of Charms Blow Pops, literally. Charms Blow Pops. Who doesn't love a good Charms Blow Pops?
I don't even know what those are. Those
they
exist?
have bubble gum in them. They're lollipops.
You've had them your whole life.
Really?
Bobby Crotty handed them out to us
Those
in
are
class.
called Charms lollipops?
That's the brand,
Yeah, it's a brand. So like Tootsie Pops have a delicious chocolate center, right? But a Charms Blow Pop has at its center.
Okay, it's got the white wrapping instead of the
Yeah.
Bobby Crotty handed out Tootsie Pops.
Oh,
That's my
right.
personal preference.
He did.
You like Tootsie Pops?
You're
Okay, I'm a
right.
Charms Blow Pop
Yeah,
guy.
I like them.
And so anyway, I said, let's go to the game. And so we got to the game, and literally we're there, and I just said, hey, why don't you just go, hey, who? And at one point, I told my friend, I said, why don't you say, hey, who wants a Charms Blow Pop? And I mean, in seconds, the bag was gone, right? He's in the high school section, and he's throwing blow pops to people. And I said, hey, just hang on a little bit, and just, and a little bit later when something happens, go, okay, who can predict, the next time someone's going to score, I'll give you a blow pop. And so anyway, he became the center of the section's attention, not because he was giving away blow pops, but he was just having fun. He was initiating with other people. He was thinking of something other than himself.
Yeah.
So the next week, he comes to the game, and everybody goes, hey, Brent, come sit by me. And he didn't have any blow pops, right? And he goes, hey, I don't have blow pops. They go, well, come here, sit with me anyway. And he goes, no. And he went and got blow pops. And so literally, I don't know what blow pops cost back then. Let's just say they were $3.99 for a pack of 40, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, but it went from him doing that a couple of weeks to, I think he was even remembered, like in that high school, when they talk about people who do stuff.
Yeah, like the yearbook, superlatives.
Okay, so I mean, the answer isn't, the principle of this is not get blow pops and buy friends with candy.
Real truth, real quick.
No, that's not the
Get
point.
blow pops.
Here's the point, is think of ways that you can be a blessing to other people. A simple way where you can, instead of sitting there thinking, hey, nobody wants to sit next to me, why don't you go, how can I make somebody, else a little happier and give them a little bit more joy with not very much effort. And you don't need blow pops to do it. It's just to initiate conversation. So what I would say to my friend who's living at home alone is to be somebody who just sits there and instead of saying, I wish a guy would call me or friends would call me, I would say, hey, who is somebody I could call and initiate with? And I think as a gal, I tell my daughters, hey, you're the treasure. Treasures don't do the hunting, okay? But I would pursue relationships with others. I would get involved with ministries where you're going to be around other individuals, guys and girls that are pursuing Christ, where you can form friendships with them that who knows what it will turn into in that particular.
And Gary Thomas, we read Glorious Pursuit, and he talks about that principle. I can't remember what chapter it's in, but it's such a, when I read it, I was like, that is such a good principle just to live by. When you walk into any room and you have the freedom of, I'm not looking for someone to love me, and you walk in,
I'm here to love people.
I'm looking for the person that I can love and I can engage with and encourage. Because there's always someone who needs that.
Yep.
In every room you go into, every football game.
That's following Jesus.
Yeah. And so when you live with that mindset and that perspective, it frees you up from loneliness, and it frees you from the need for affirmation and to feel fulfillment from anything other than Christ, because you're looking to give it.
And you about to transition to the next question?
Yeah.
Because I want to add one thing here.
Okay.
Because we talked about how one of the mistakes people make is they believe that a relationship is going to fill their cup. And I wanted to say to you, to friends that are watching, you want to seek the Lord, not seek a husband, not seek a wife. Okay? Seek more of Jesus. And here's the thing. When you're doing that, you're going to be, I tell girls all the time, a girl ought to be so much like Christ that a man can't find her unless he's looking to Jesus himself. Because that's the kind of man that is going to be the blessing in a human relationship that you want. And don't believe that there's anyone, don't buy the lie that anyone or anything other than Jesus can satisfy you. Hey friends, thanks for watching that episode of Real Truth Real Quick, where I try and give answers to life, leadership, and the world we live in. We love doing this because it's a great way to push forward biblical truth and equip the saints. Hey, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel, which you can do by hitting up YouTube or just hit the link in the show notes below.